Joining me now is Democratic House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. She's also the author of the recently released book, The Art of Power, My Story as America's First Woman Speaker of the House. First of all, I'm just wondering overall what you thought of the debate last night, because it does seem from maybe like 10 minutes into it, Vice President Harris certainly found a way to get underneath or under the skin of the former president in a way that very few people have in a public debate.
Well, let's just talk about her rather than him right now. We can come back to his skin later. But right now, I want to talk about her leadership. I was so proud of her. She was presidential. She showed her new way forward, new and forward, her plan to take us forward, command of the issues, eloquence in talking about them, again, strategic in her thinking. I thought she was just spectacular. But her excellence did get under his skin. And it was so strange because one of the things I was so proud about Kamala, the vice president, last night, was that she prioritized in her answers. Any one of them could be a program discussion, but she prioritized the importance, whether it was a woman's right to choose, whether it's our national security, whether it's issues that relate to our economy and the rest. She prioritized. And that means there's so much more to come as we go from here. So I think she did great. As to baiting him and him taking the bait, I don't even like to use his name much less talk about him. But the fact is, I thought he looked foolish last night. I thought she looked presidential. I thought he looked silly.
Have you, watching him on that stage, you've obviously, you know him very well from interacting with him in a professional capacity. Has he, what do you make of where he is at? Is his skill level the same? Is he different than he was, as you recall, in office in terms of his stamina, thinking, whatever it may be?
You know, one of those big balloons when you stick a pin in and it swirls around the room until it comes down to nothing? That's what he reminds me of, just less and less and less and less. Like somebody stuck a pin in him and he's just greatly diminished. The fact that we're talking about kitchen table issues, people's personal health, their financial health, all the things that people care about. And what is he talking about? And the things you talked about earlier, which I won't spend any more time going into. But I do think that people saw a big distinction as to who can be the commander-in-chief, who is respected. And she has served as vice president, as a senator before that. This is a person who is a good person. Personally, I know her as a good person, a person of deep faith who cares about people, and her public service is a reflection of that. Officially, I know her as a person of strength. She knows the priorities, the issues. She has a command of them, as I mentioned. She is strategic in how to get the job done, and eloquent in how to convey it. And politically, she is very astute. So when she puts forth the new way forward, she's taking us from the greatness of Joe Biden and all that we, working together, accomplished in that term to new heights in her way. So I thought that was demonstrated very clearly. And with over, 67 million people watching, it's a good start. We say to everyone, now our work continues. We must get out the vote. We can talk about that.
Let me ask you about that. As you write, you know a thing or two about campaigning. Your book has a just fascinating look at politics in America in your career. What needs to happen now, in your opinion, for the Harris campaign? Because, look, no matter how well people think she may have done last night, you look at the numbers, this is still, tell me if you believe it, a very, very close race, particularly in these battleground states.
Well, first, let me just say that what I loved about last night, she was herself. She was herself and being articulate and knowledgeable and prioritizing and the rest. she doesn't need any advice from the rest of us on how she should proceed. But what we need to do is to make sure she wins. So for all of those millions of people who saw her and were excited by it, the rest, we don't. That's okay. But we have to put it into action. So that means we must. I have 3 M's: mobilize. We must own the ground to get out the vote. Every single vote that is for Kamala Harris to come to the polls. We have to message in a way that is inspiring. You don't run on empty as you mobilize. You need inspiration. We want a message that is bold and progressive, but not menacing, but is unifying for our country. As she said, turn the page. We want to unify America. Mobilization, message, and of course the money to get the job done. And small donors have been just so enthusiastic about her campaign. But this must continue. So I have the 3 M's and I have the 3 no's. No wasted time, no underutilized resource, and no regrets the day after the election that we could have walked another precinct or made more calls or sent more texts or postcards and the rest. So we're getting down to the basics here. But we don't agonize over him. We organize about her. Mobilization, message, money, own the ground. Because all of it is just a conversation unless you own the ground. So people are revved. They are working, and that's what it will take. Because I believe every race is close. Now, she'll win the popular vote, but we have to win in those targeted states.
There are people who watched the debate last night and agonize about a return to that for the next 4 years. You write in your book, the threat to our democracy is real, present, and urgent. The parable of January 6th reminds us that our precious democratic institutions are only as strong as the courage and commitment of those entrusted with their care. The former president recently posted about jailing election officials he views as cheating. A couple of weeks ago, he shared a computer-generated image of you and several other prominent Democrats in orange jumpsuits with the caption, "How to actually fix the system." Do you take these, threats of political retribution seriously?
Yes, I do. His people have already acted upon my family in my own home. So yes, I take his threats. I take his threats seriously. Let me just say, what is so offensive to me is that there's some really good Republicans out there who put up with his saying he never offered any National Guard. Even Mitch McConnell joined us in our bipartisan urgent, please send them. Please send the National Guard. And his Secretary of the Army, Secretary of Defense, it takes a lot of time, and he never did until finally he did hours later. More people injured, some people then subsequent to that dying, because he wouldn't send the National Guard. So for him to go on TV and lie about it, he lies all the time. That's the only, I don't know if he knows what the truth is. He's so foreign from it in his statements. But for him to lie about sending the National Guard, I sent it, they refused it. Please, press, don't let him get away with that. That's so ridiculous. And he knows that we do not have control of the security. That's dealt in a different way, and the power of the White House. Now, hopefully, we could get the District of Columbia made into a state, and then the leader of the District of Columbia can call out the National Guard. But until that happens, and unless it does, we're dependent on the president, who has incited the insurrection and refused to send the National Guard. So when he talks about arresting people and the rest, isn't that offensive to people? Am I missing something here? You know what? We don't agonize, we organize. We just have to win. We have to win big. I don't know if you saw, but the administration has called January 6th a special security event. So that means that there will be more security there from the start, so that we don't have it. And of course, most important to that is to have Hakeem Jeffries have the gavel and be the Speaker of the House. It would have been a very different outcome if I didn't have the gavel and the Democrats had the majority in the House.
House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Again, the book is titled The Art of Power. My story as America's first woman Speaker of the House.